It's May the 29th, it's about 10 to 11 p.m. and I'm going to zoom in on that large set of reflector lights that are shining 24/7 for the last 6 months in this city, and there appears to be no specific purpose for them and no reason for them to be on all the time, day and night. And I want to see what's going on around them. Okay, you can tell that it's a number of lights, not just one, and that they're mounted on top of a very tall pole. Now that pole is higher than the buildings you can see below, so it's hundreds of feet up in the air, and it's a freestanding structure, and it even goes above the lights, and the lights are mounted onto what appear to be horizontal bars staggered on both sides of the pole and going horizontally, and there is at least 3 or 4 different lights or reflectors that are shining very bright. Okay, so I see 4 lights shining very bright, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. The 2 on the top are closer together, the 2 on the bottom are spread apart. Given the size of that structure, those lights are spread apart quite a bit, maybe 50 feet or more, and the 2 on top are closer, but they're not together. It's only the brightness of the lights that makes them seem like they're together. As you can see, all the lights seem to have energy fields emanating from them, top and bottom and on the sides, and they're hexahedron in shape. Now these lights have been here for 6 months, and apparently I can't see any reason why they're shining day and night, and it looks kind of odd to see lights this strong in the middle of the city, and it's not a stadium or anything else there that these lights would be required to shine for a game or anything. They're just on all the time. Now, looking close and next to the lights themselves, there are lots of organisms that you can see just counterclockwise rotating in a cluster formation and revolving around the nucleus, and there are many clusters. They're all revolving around their own nucleus and individually, but they're sharing the orbs that you can see between them. So the orbs are freely associating with any one of the clusters back and forth, and this is very visible if you pay attention to how the orbs are moving. You can also see that there's an energy field around those reflecting lights. Now no one knows really, or no one's saying what kind of lights those are. They just look very bright and very large. And now there are 3 lights on top, apparently, one next to the other, and there are 2 large ones on the bottom. So you can see now that there's even more organisms, and just keep an eye on how they're moving. Now they appear spherical, but it's not easy to tell what shape they are. They just appear to be spherical, and they could be providing a glow themselves and appear spherical, or they're some other shape altogether. But the lights, the large lights, are exhibiting a hexahedron shape with energy fields going out to both sides on the bottom, both sides on the top, and both of the sides left and right on each one. Now if you look at those orbs and how they're counterclockwise rotating, I'm going to just back off a little bit, move this over a little bit, and just get this light in. Hopefully I can get it into the screen. Okay. Now check out how many organisms there are in the air. These are all living organisms and they're in the air and they're moving super fast, and they're all in clusters, and they even reflect different colors. This is nothing wrong with the camera or the film or the settings or anything else. This is a very expensive camera, and it's able to pick up the minutest details about things. It has a great zoom, and it's not the camera. Look at these organisms. This is what's happening in the air. And look at the rate that they're counter-clockwise rotating around the cluster nucleus. And there are many clusters, just wall-to-wall clusters of these organisms in all of the air near the ground, and then farther up and higher up in the atmosphere. There's a lot of them in the clouds. They make a lot of the clouds, and then they make the atmosphere above the clouds as well. So all our airspace is filled with these things. They're just wall to wall. They cover the entire sky. Sometimes there's so many of them that you can't see beyond them. You can only see them, and you can't see the stars or anything else. It all depends how thick the layers of these organisms are. Just want to look at the bottom here. Okay, now you can see that those energy bonds, top, bottom, and the sides there, of that one that is up front, are acting as some form of an energy field and attracting all those organisms to the light. And I believe that those lights are there for that reason, to attract those organisms to those lights. Now I don't know if those are man-made lights or if these organisms themselves have anything to do with those lights, because man-made lights would not be necessarily appearing in the form of a hexahedron and shooting off energy fields, top, bottom, and sides, on all sides, like that. They would look much more normal than those lights there. So there is definitely something not right about them. Now here they are all together, and you can just see the air teeming with all these organisms. And now you can see that all those smaller clusters are counter-clockwise rotating in a larger spherical motion around the lights. And you can see now that the cluster is much larger than just those smaller clusters, meaning that the smaller clusters all combine to form a very large cluster that surrounds those lights. So even though the orbs are rotating counterclockwise around their own nuclei, those smaller clusters then themselves revolve around a larger circumference and a larger diameter of the overall cluster, which is a very large cluster, encompassing not just those lights but many kilometers maybe all around those lights. So basically what I see now is those lights getting even brighter, and I see an energy field around them. And the energy field could be caused by these organisms counter-clockwise rotations around the lights themselves, because they're revolving at such a fast rate. They could be creating a state of plasma around the lights just by superheating the air with their motion. So that means that these organisms have mass and weight, and that they are interacting with the air around them to superheat it and to create a plasma field. And let me see if I can get that right in. You can see that that's evident that there is a plasma field around those lights. That is not just mere light reflection, that is a plasma field. Now, behind the plasma field may be lights, but in front of them there is a plasma field, and they are in a hexahedron shape. And if you just look at all of these orbs or spherical entities revolving around that entire set of lights that's on a pole high up in the air, that the pole is taller than the buildings around there, and it's a freestanding structure, it just seems very odd that those lights are there attracting all of these organisms. And just the way they're set up does not make much sense. Just the way the setup is, that you have 3 on top and then 2 on the bottom staggered like that and far away from each other. Normally, when you go to a stadium, all the lights are put together, one next to the other, and in rows close together. Now these are specifically placed like that for some reason that's unknown, and it makes no sense why they would be set up that way. As I said, there is nothing there like a stadium or any other reason why these lights should be shining day and night for the last 6 months. And if it is electricity that's being used like that, it's a real waste, because we pay for that, and electricity should not be wasted that way, because they serve no purpose other than to attract these organisms at night and in the daytime. Now these organisms can get energy from light sources. They can get energy from any source, but they tend to go close to light sources to get energy from them, because that's the easiest way for them to get energy without working for it. So they sort of bask in those strong lights and energize themselves, and you can see the clusters just moving around. Those clusters are so numerous that the entire air and sky are filled with them, no matter where you go in this entire city. And in the atmosphere they can go up miles. There is just no way of telling how many of those things there are, because there's so many of them. It would be impossible to count them all. And you can see those energy bonds both on the bottom and on the top. And what they do is just create a larger energy field that surrounds all of the lights. So the extension of those sort of arms that are sticking out like an X, they just extend that energy field. And look at how many organisms are all around that entire thing in the air. Just unbelievable numbers of them. too many to count. Just going to zoom in a little bit so that you can look at the cluster movement and the orbs within the clusters, and how they rotate counterclockwise and revolve around the nucleus. And you can see there between the top light and the bottom light on the right hand side of the screen, look how fast the orbs are moving. That shows you the speed that they're moving right there. It's right between the lights on the top and the lights on the light on the bottom on the right hand side of the screen. Just look at how fast those orbs are moving. So when they get close to the light source, as those are there, that are going very fast, they increase their revolutions and their speed around the nucleus, and it becomes so fast that they're hard to see. The farther away they are from an energy source, in this case the light source, the slower their revolutions are. The farther they are from the energy source, and in this case the lights. But when they come right into the focus of the lights and close to them, watch how they energize and how fast they're moving in comparison to the orbs that are outside of the light. Just I want you to look at them closely, both on the part where the lights are not and on the part where the lights are on the right hand side, and the orbs in the middle of the lights, between the top lights and the bottom light. And look at the speed of their revolutions as opposed to the left top corner of the screen where there are no lights in that portion of the screen. Just look at the difference in the revolutions around the nuclei of the cluster, or clusters I mean, because there's a lot of clusters. But look how fast that cluster is revolving as opposed to the top left hand side of the screen. There's a huge difference in velocity. So when those organisms come close to an energy source like that, they collect all that energy, they speed up their revolutions around the nuclei. In this case the nuclei of the two clusters there, they're right there in the middle between the top and the bottom light on the right hand side. Now that energy is transferred to all the other orbs that are not in this location. They transfer energy through one another and feed the energy to the entire cluster mass, which means a lot of clusters and even more orbs in those clusters that aren't even in the screen. So that motion there, that velocity, is used to transfer the energy from the lights out to the outer edges of the cluster, to the orbs which are not close to the nucleus. And the nucleus is right there on the right hand side where those two clusters or more are spinning around super fast between the top light and the bottom light. And you can see the difference in the speed from them as opposed to the top left side of the screen where the entities are not in direct light. So just watch that for a while and just look at all of them. What they're doing is exchanging orbs through that center or the nucleus and charging them up. And they're charging them up at such a fast rate or velocity that they're hard to see. But each one of those orbs that goes through that nucleus comes out charged up. And I think that's the reason for those lights day and night, and they serve no other purpose. They're actually charging all these entities up to do whatever they do, which is questionable. What is it that they do? And what are they, and where did they come from, and for what reason are they here? But the air and the atmosphere and everything around here is so full of them that it is unbelievable how many of them there are. And there are looks like there's no way of stopping these things. There are just more of them every day. And these lights provide them the energy to either reproduce or to somehow make more of themselves by replicating. Whatever process it is that they do or use, they're making more of themselves. And there's just more of them every day. And they're not just in the air and the atmosphere, they're on everything that's on the ground, including people and everything standing on the ground, living or not living. And they're in the lakes and the waters around here, all the rivers, all the lakes and everything else. They're in every water source. There's just no place that you can't find them. They're everywhere. If you know what you're looking for, you can see them everywhere. And in great numbers. All over. And just look at how fast those things are moving. Right there. And that nucleus is getting larger. You'll see it get larger and larger. The more it powers up and the more orbs join in there, the clusters, they'll be even larger than they are now. And you can see that the entire mass of the orbs is revolving faster now than before, because what they're doing is charging them all up, so now they all have more energy and they revolve even faster, even if they're not right there in that very active nucleus, which is in between the two lights, the lights on the top and the light on the bottom on the right hand side. And you can just see that the entire mass of the orbs has increased in their revolutions and their velocity as they spin counterclockwise. So basically, I see no other reason for these lights other than to charge these things up. And these things are using for your electricity. We're providing the power. So since we don't know what they are or even why they're here, I think we should turn those lights off instead of waste our electricity to give them power to reproduce in such great numbers. Look how many there are in the air. All that sparkles in the air is them. All those little sparkles you see in the air is these organisms. This is nothing wrong with the camera. That's just how many organisms there are. And we are breeding them in. You can't avoid breeding them in. They come in very small sizes, microscopic, and you can't avoid breeding them in. Just look at how many of them there are in the air. And look at how fast those orbs are moving in that nucleus on the right hand side of the screen. That's between the lights on the top and the light on the bottom. Just look at the velocity. So next time you wonder where your tax money is going, part of it is going to power up these lights that serve no other purpose than to charge up these orbs. so they can reproduce even more of themselves. That's where your tax money is going, on things like this. And we're not even being told what those things are, what's the purpose of the whole thing, and why are they there, and why are they in our atmosphere and in our water and all over us, on everything we can see, touch and hear, and everything around us, even in our homes. Because if you breathe air, you're breathing in, these things in, even in your home. Just look at how fast those things are moving. And just look how many of them there are. Thank you for watching my video.